Good morning. It's 9 a.m. Friday, December 20th, 2024. Welcome to the Good News Live at 9 on Facebook and later available on our YouTube channel. Please comment in the chat so we know you're with us. This is a presentation of the Allen Park Presbyterian Church. Good morning, everyone. I'm Suzan Maxey. I'm an elder at Allen Park Pres. And my co-host, Kerri Van, among other things, not the least of which is good friend, confidant, and fellow babbling Brook sister.
Absolutely. And my lips are sealed.
Yeah. Good morning, Kerri.
Good morning, Suzanne. It looks like a winter wonderland outside.
Oh, doesn't it?
Yes.
Look what I've got. I've got my heated throw on.
I know I have like black on black on black with lots of shirts on today. Good morning, Pat McBride. I already talked to Pat McBride today. I'm glad she joined us. He
Hi,
knows
Pat.
that she grew up with our guest. Morning, Judy Hatch, and anyone else who might be watching. So we are, Sue, I'm really tired, and I'm sure you are.
Me too.
My eyes are like burning out of my head right now. But hey, Christmas Eve is at a perfect time. Everybody gets another weekend. Got the fourth Sunday of Advent still. And everybody's got a couple little days to get their act together, which you know me, I'm probably one of the last minute people, not by choice, I guess. Not by
Not
choice.
anymore, but then I am. I'm very last minute too. I know.
Yes. Not by choice, not by choice sometimes. But anyways, Christmas Eve is when? Next Tuesday, right?
I believe so. It's the 24th.
Yes, it's the 24th. We can never go wrong with that. We have two services. 5:30 is our kid-friendly shorter service. And we have music by Nick Fugetti from Nick James Music. And if you come at 9 o'clock, we're having cookies and punch in the parlor. We call it cookies and carols to be fancy. And then you need to grab a seat in the sanctuary at 9:30 because it'll go right into the 10 p.m. service and it's going to be a great service. Lots of beautiful music, carol sing. We got Glenn Miller and the choir and the handbell choir, which you're part of, Sue. And we have a solos by Emily Braun and Patty Allen on her flute. So it's going to be very nice. I think the weather's going to be kind of warm too, like 48 to 50. That would be
Really?
very nice. Most people want snow on Christmas, but I can
Have
live
it
with it.
today.
Today's fine. Today's fine with me. And our poinsettia book will be available. It honors and remembers so many of our loved ones. And that'll be, with any luck, will be available in the narthex on Christmas Eve.
I'm sure it will be.
Yes, it will be. I have complete faith it will be. So we have a breaking news announcement. The camp dates for Camp Wakanda, they have been announced and they are available on our website. And if you want to work at the camp as a volunteer or staff in any way, the applications are also live. And you need to get that in before the end of January because there's so much planning that needs to be done.
Oh, yeah.
Directors, cooks, counselors, lifeguards, health officers, and
Yeah.
musicians.
All of
Don't
my
forget
headbands.
yeah. So we'll send an email out. You'll see some things in some of the bulletins. So keep your eye out for that. So today we have a special guest who grew up in our area at our church, and her name is Gail Lee. And we are going to bring her in and find out all about a new book that she has authored with others. Right?
Yep.
All right. Man, it's only like 3 after. Hope she has
Yeah,
a lot to say.
we really ran through that, didn't we? Our announcements.
Yeah, we really did. Good morning, Gail.
Morning.
Morning.
We have a lot of time with you today because we went through our announcements so quickly. So feel free to ramble on at any given moment.
Oh, I was listening to them on my
All right,
Um,
good. Yeah, we usually have more announcements, but for some reason we were excited to get you in here. So here you are, and welcome to our podcast.
I know I loved hearing about Camp Wakanda just now. I
I
need to
know.
I need to
So
work
that's
it into one of my summer schedules because I haven't been for so long, and
well,
it
you should,
really shapes you in your life.
yeah, you should come to grandparents camp with your
I was
little
gonna
ones.
say grandparents camp would be
Yes.
great.
I
Can you
know.
bring
When
See,
was
the camera?
that coming? When is grandparents camp coming
it's
this
tw
time?
it's towards the end of July, and it's super fun. Because it gives you a chance to like share Camp Wakanda with your little ones,
Next
and
generation, yeah.
yes, and we watch them a lot so that you can enjoy time on the porch drinking coffee.
Yeah, Deanna's been the director. You know her already, so
Oh, she has. Yeah, it's conflicted. The times it's come up so far, it's conflicted with other items. But
Well, hopefully we can
yeah,
get you into something. Did you go to Camp Wakanda when you were young and at the church?
me? Oh, yes.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
All right.
It's kind of part of my story, but it's
All
not
right.
in there. It's only so many pages, you know,
All
or
right.
so
So,
many.
all right. We're getting all out of crazy order here. Um, so many people know you. And we brought you on here to discuss something exciting that's happened in your life recently. There is a book called In Her Power, In Her Wisdom. It's a collaborative effort by a group of women, one of which is Dr. Marty Casey, who we have interviewed on the show before. And they share their personal stories of strength and spiritual growth and resilience. So we are excited to find out about your chapter and what this has meant and how you got to writing this.
Yeah. So I just have a copy of it here. Whoops, I got the little blurry thing here going.
All
Oh,
right.
there you can see it. In her
Yes.
power, in her wisdom, a woman's guide to overcoming challenges. And so, like you said, Dr. Marty and Rebecca now were kind of the spearheads, and um, they put it out that they were doing it, and I jumped on board right away. And it was about telling your story. So I kind of wanted to do that. And like you said, she was interviewed on the show because she has a powerful one woman show, and I had brought her to Detroit to do it for a group of people, and so she was going to do it there. And so it just kind of dovetailed around the same time. But I was working on the book for a while, and as you guys know, that my dad was really sick. And so one special thing was I finished my draft in May when I was home with him, and I handed it to him. I said, Dad, I want you to read this. I'm going to participate in this book. And he read it, and he was just like, huh, this is really good. He said, it's like your life story. And I said, yeah, Dad, it is my life story. And then, as you know, I know Susie knows, I think you do too, Kerri, he just like fast forward a month and a half, and he finally kind of succumbed to all the cancer things that he had been fighting. And he was there in the hospital, and they had like a authors meeting, kind of going over the time frame and when it was going to come out. And mine was still at the editor to look over and make any suggestions or what have you. And Dr. Marty did call me back, and she said, well, whatever they say, don't change a word, because then you'll know that your dad read it, and you'll always see those words. But ultimately, I did change it a little bit. I added a few things, but I kind of figured he still knows what it says because it's told my life story. Just added a few things.
Oh,
Um,
that's so beautiful that he got a chance to read that manuscript. Oh,
yeah,
that's
he
great.
was pretty excited for me. And then it hit the #1 bestseller international, which is kind of, just really exciting the way that they do that. And, it comes out on Amazon and campaign, and within those 48 hours, it hit the first bestseller in so many categories in 3 countries, in like United States and Canada, actually Canada, Australia, and Canada. I mean, Canada, Australia, and Germany. So that was pretty exciting.
I mean, that is really, I'm going to put a link in the chat if I can find the chat. Um, that is remarkable that it hit so tell us more, the international bestseller list like that. That
so
is
it's been
fantastic.
translated into other languages already?
I believe so. Like it was on the Amazon, so I assume in those countries that translated it when they bought it. It was their link. I don't really know the answer to that, Susie. It had the link for those countries. Well, I guess it didn't need a translate for Canada and Australia probably, and I'm not sure about Germany, but it had links to buy it in multiple countries. So I don't have the statistics on what it did in the other one, but it ended up being 23 women, and they are all from St. Louis. And I think that their vision was to have so many different culture, so many women of color and so many white women, and just that perspective of how, we are all going through our stories, and, we all kind of help to support each other and work on things. And kind of as I was listening to some of the other people and myself, I realized, because I had the title to my chapter was Power, Purpose, and Resilience. And I realized, like, from reading it and going through with other people, that a lot of the things that I talk about and that I've gone through helped build resilience in my life. And so you have these challenges, and if you're going to overcome them and keep going, you have to build the resilience. And I think through that, it gave me my purpose of what I feel is my purpose in life. And just knowing that, I think, gives you your power to do those things. So I kind of was like, but it does start, I talk about in here, of course I grew up there in Allen Park, and I had the, typical, family for like a long time. And I went to church there with my parents and was very involved. And suddenly, my mom passed away. And I know you guys weren't at the church then. I think Susie's heard a lot of my story now. She came to my dad's funeral, and even though she didn't know him, and came to his after party, and they came here with the, Women's Association to St. Louis, and we visited. So she kind of knows some of this. But so my mom died real unexpectedly like that. And this is where Camp Wakanda comes in, Kerri, because
There we go.
Dave Swinehart at that time, I was, which age I was, I had been away to Kentucky. I'd gone to Kentucky to visit my grandparents for the summer. So when my mom died, I came back. The camp I should have went to already had occurred. And so he spoke to my dad, and I went to confirmation camp that summer, and I went a year earlier, and I really bonded with those people. A lot of the people from that camp and from the church and from that time, they still were my friends. And when I looked around at that funeral, a lot of them were there,
Wow.
so.
Gosh, that makes me want to tear up a little bit. Confirmation, that was a great move by the pastor, because that's a very intense camp, and that is wonderful. Wow.
Yeah, and that summer too, Dave and Marcia had me over their house. Their house used to be over there by the library. And that's where the one man's was at the time. And, they cut, I remember the one dish very specifically was spaghetti. They taught me how to make spaghetti and different items. And so that started because I was the oldest, and I did have to start trying to do meals for the family and all that kind of stuff. And, buy groceries, and I just didn't know how to do any of it. So their support was really helpful. And then I was always in youth group after that. And my dad, starting at that time, he was an usher. My parents were in Tillers. They were very active in church. But when that happened, I think he was pretty uncomfortable to come, so he didn't really come too much after that. But he always made sure I was able to get there. And
How old
it
were
was
you when
important.
your mom died?
12.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh
I
my
was-
goodness.
Yeah. I
How
was
many siblings do you have?
I have 2 younger brothers, and so it was, and so that's what I say in the book. The next few years were a little bit, chaotic, and so the church community, they were like my big rock and my big supporters, and
Family.
yeah, it kind of helped me through, and they're still there today, really. And as through the years, I've always stayed connected and come and visited when I'm home, but
Yes.
a lot of times I'm only home once a year. But kind of through this pandemic and all this live things. And, I've worked on the committee to help with the camp fundraising and different camp things over the last few years, and, kind of joined in and been invited to do Bible studies and all kinds of other things online. And of course, through the pandemic, I watched the service every single week, when I was stuck in my house. And then I watched the one for my church. So
That's so awesome. I remember meeting you and your daughter and her husband on Christmas Eve, and you were just so kind. And I felt like I knew you forever. I just remember that. I remember meeting you, and you were just so nice. And churches are good for that, don't you think?
yeah, there's people like, um, um, I'm picturing it like, but, Marilyn Dubeck, that's not her last name, but she's there all the time. And I have a picture from when we were like in preschool together. And, like, so there's just a lot of people that go back. Mary Ann, I guess I'm saying it wrong, but
No, Paul, you're talking about Pauline Dubeck,
no,
right?
no,
No,
it's
Mary
Mary Ann.
McEwen.
Mary Ann.
Her
Mary
name
Ann
is
McEwen.
Yeah.
McEwen now. Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't know what her last name was, but
Right.
yeah, her kids are the same age. I don't know where Marilyn was coming to me, but I knew it wasn't right. Yeah, and so a few years after that, my dad did marry, and I say my stepmom, but I never really called her that. It's they were married, and then she had 4 kids, and we're all a blended family, and she was supportive. At one point, her daughter was a member at the church, and as well, after I had left and went in the Army. I went in the Army, which Dave and them did not like. They wanted me to go to Alma and stuff. And he
Wanted
was
you to go
always
to
kind
Alma,
of
right? Religious studies, right?
yeah, it wasn't like the typical thing to do at the time, but it
you had to do what you had to do. So
yeah, because we didn't really have. My dad had some wisdom about that because and when you're 17, 18, you think you maybe know better. But I had got accepted to Alma, and but I wanted to be a social worker. When you're thinking of purpose, all those things, I wanted to help people. And so I wanted to be a social worker. And I can remember it very specifically at the time. Alma was like 5,900 a year to go at that time. I'm sure it's like much
Right.
higher now. But the average salary for a social worker was $5,900
Right.
a year. And my dad was like, you don't pay 4 times the amount that you could earn in a year to go to college to get that degree. But plus he didn't have the money really. And at that time with Social Security, it would pay through college. And so he was looked at and he said, the Social Security would pay for Michigan State. So it's right there. Why don't you go there and then you can stay at home? Well, one of my brothers had different problems and I didn't want to be at home. I was like, I can't be at home. So, but maybe I could have got a job and paid for an apartment a lot cheaper, and college would have been paid for. But yeah, I went in the Army and the Army paid for college. So
how long did you serve in the Army, and where did you serve?
I was in for 8 years. So,
Wow.
Yeah, close to. I served a lot of different places, and yeah, people there. I initially went to Alabama for basic training, and then Port Sam, Houston, Texas, and San Antonio for my training, and then I first went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then to Germany for 3 years, and then Fort Hood, Texas, and that's where I got out of the Army, but I worked civil service. So like 22 years government service. So I went from Texas to Kentucky to here. And then I actually worked at Fort Leonard Wood, which is about 125 miles for like the last year. And I couldn't take that drive 125 miles a day with my little one. So that was, some of the challenges too, because, I was married and had our child, and then eventually I got divorced. So the divorce was hard too, being a single parent. But always, my friends in the church and different, my faith was always very supportive. And
So
and I feel like,
that's wonderful. So I know you lost someone else that was really close to you too, that after that time frame. So you know the depths of grief.
right, I went a long time, and coincidentally, the person that you're, I think, speaking of, that you don't know so much about, but when I did graduate and I was going to leave for the Army, the camp that time, it was like a travel camp, and myself and Margot, neither one of us, we had just both graduated, and neither one of us could go to that camp. And so there was a director there at that time, and she originally had gone to um, church in St. Clair Shores, and they always went to the New Wilmington Missionary Conference. And so she hooked it up, and me and Margot went over and got with that church and went to that conference that week. And we were our only ones, but it was an interesting experience, and that's where I met my friend, and we dated, and we were thinking about getting married, but when I went in the Army, he was there. It was way different at the time, so we didn't stay together. But eventually, all these years later, we just kind of had connected, and he eventually moved here. But yeah, he did pass away within like 3 years, so that was hard.
Yeah, that was
But
tough. I'm sorry for that.
it was an interesting thing. Um, the ministers at the time too, they were like, oh, we don't know too much about this conference, and you guys are going out there by yourselves, which we were with another church. But Dean Gedemy, he always went to that every single year, like he was from that town or his sister lived there, and he would go. And so they kind of brought him up and introduced him a little bit more. And he's like, I'm going to check on you guys. And every single day he would find us. There was like thousands of people. And I don't know, he would find us. And he'd just check in. And then that led, to many years. And I know lots of other people got letters, but I left for the Army, soon after. And he started to write letters. Like, I think I got a letter every single week in basic training. I would get these letters. And they were sometimes very odd letters. Like, you guys got any of them? They'd say all these random things. And I remember the one that really, and he would go by and visit my parents too and talk to them. And they were like, who is this person? He would go by and say, how is she doing? And wherever. But anyways, he wrote me, and I was first at Fort Dix, and he wrote this wonderful letter. And then it said, and how is Molly Pitcher? And I was like, who is Molly Pitcher? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then I figured out that it was the Revolutionary War. Molly Pitcher served soldiers in the Revolutionary War. I wasn't like up on my history right then. But he's like, he was like, how is Molly Pitcher doing? And I'm like, who is Molly Pitcher? Yeah, it was interesting. But whatever.
I love Dean. Oh, and
he was really funny. And I remember when he would check on us at that conference, I was like, and he'd send those letters, and I was like, oh, he's just, it was very special. But you think about, and I'm like, oh, this older person is doing this. So it's funny, like in 2019, you fast forward, my daughter and I, we were able to go. We went to that conference, and we took someone from our church here, and she'd heard me talk about it, and she knew that's where my friend and I had met. And we went there, and at the time, then something came out from the church that very week, and he was turning 99 or 100 or what have you. And they talked about all the letters that he sent all kinds of people through the years, and they were encouraging me to send a card. And I was like calculating the time, and I was just like, oh crap. I'm like, I was way older at this camp than he was back at that time. I'm like, oh, it seems like when you're younger, people, I seem so old. And then I was like, I'm like 5 or 10 years older, at least. I don't remember how much older, but I was much older. And I was just like laughing about that. But anytime I ever went home in all those years, 40 years or whatever, he always like knew where, he'd introduce me to somebody there and it's like, oh, this is Gail from, how's land in St. Louis? How's land here? How's this? And whoever I was with, he always knew who they were and, what was happening. So it
Yeah,
was
he
just
sent cards
special.
to every kid that went to camp too. So yeah, he was a big card sender. So that was a good memory for you to bring up today, Dean. Oh,
Yeah, it's nice to have that structure. And if you read like the different stories and the books from other people, you'll see how much their faith, kind of gets them through. And I just think it's such an
you
important
said
thing.
there's 23 authors.
Hmm.
So do all of them, like, is it all about faith and different battles that you had to overcome, Gail?
It's all about overcoming stuff. Some people's isn't about faith because maybe that's not, what
Part of your,
resonated for them or what have you. But a lot of them are circle back to that, I think.
yeah, that sounds like a great book. I do have hopefully people will buy it because there is a link in the chat. I know Sue wants to read it too, and so do I. So
I know I have it on the paperback, and if you guys want, I will, I send them. Hopefully, I'll be coming home soon. I've been a few times. I came in, I think in October, and Denise bought a book, and somebody else bought a book. I was just there for a short thing, and I didn't get to see as many people. Um, I was planning to stay that Sunday, but I went ahead and go
Alexa
to church, but I
dismissed.
went home. But I can take some orders and send it to the church for people to pick up autographed copies.
Yeah, please let us do that. And that would be really good. Let me read a couple comments in the chat. Sue Tucker said, thank you for your service. And Pat Lahaka
Oh
McBride,
yeah,
she said, I have read Gail's story and it's wonderful. So we would love to get autograph copies. So please keep in touch with me when that you're going to be here. I know it's
I can send some too. I
okay.
was going to leave some with Denise that day. She was offering to have them, and it just didn't connect. But I'm planning to try to come soon. There's another one of the authors that lives here. She had lived in Detroit for many years, and she had just moved here. Um, over the last, since that talk with Dr. Marty, so it's not very long. And she's talking about going there. We were talking about trying to plan a time to go and do some book signings, a couple
That would be
places or
that would
something.
be that would be great. And I know that we're starting to run out of time, but I had another question. Like what you're very faith oriented, but that's not what you actually do for a job, don't you? Um
Are
tell me
you a
what you do.
worker?
Tell me what you do
Social
now.
worker?
I'm a social worker, yes. I do a few things. I'm actually have been at my place of employment now for 19 years, but I work at an estate planning law firm and I help run the elder law set part of it. And so we focus on the elder law and I do all the Medicaid and VA benefit planning and kind of asset protection of how you're going to pay for where you need to be without necessarily going through all your money. And when I first came here, I just didn't realize like how much personal things people, there's a lot of social work that goes along at the law firm really. And, people didn't be aware, but I do, since I've been here and some of my other things, I'm kind of really a good benefit specialist. And that's why one time you had somebody about Medicare and I was listening and I kind of commented something. I know he kind of disagreed, but he had most of good points, but you know, um, but there is like a lot of technicalities to certain things that, and a lot of people, there is things that you can do for Medicaid that would preclude your VA benefits or affect that, or things you're doing for VA that can affect Medicaid. And so you kind of have to understand both so that you can, you know, kind of move forward with them. I've helped some people back home there, work on their VA disability stuff. I usually don't do that from the law firm. We do a different VA benefit, but yeah, I've helped a few people there and they've gotten increased benefits and, so, some of my friends I, kind of help on the side there. But so that's what I kind of do here. But I do own a geriatric care management company where we provide geriatric care management to people and help them figure out how to stay safely, like in their home, or if they have to move, or how to bring in all the services. So we kind of coordinate all that and kind of, maybe assist them with their medical care, getting to the doctor and all that kind of stuff. And maybe their family is all out of town, so they need that other, supports. And with that, about 6 years ago, I founded a nonprofit here in St. Louis. So they're kind of sister companies, and we have some grants and contracts, like with the city of St. Louis, to provide all kinds of things. We can provide care management to anybody in the city for 60 and over. And so there's about 13 different care managers that we have working on some of the things for the city. So I kind of stay busy with that.
So your decision to go into the Army has really panned out beautifully for you.
Yeah, because, I was in for 8 years, but when I got out, I had my bachelor's degree. I looked at my discharge paper, how much that they had paid for it had it dollar wise what they had paid for that whole degree, really. How much, and then so I figured out what my cost was. So I paid $714 plus books, for that 4-year college degree.
Wow.
And but then I went on and I got my master's, and I ended up getting a master's in psychology. Because of the different places I was stationed, they didn't have a social work actually degree. But somehow when I came to Missouri, they were just getting their social work license thing, and they had like this grandfathering thing. And since I had worked in social work in the military under supervisors, there was a way that I could get my license. So I am a licensed clinical social worker in Missouri. I can't go to any other state with it. It's grandfathering.
Come back to Michigan, huh?
I know. Well, I could go as a care manager. I am a certified care manager, and I'm a certified employee assistance professional. So I have some other things, but I also did a few years, well, I say a few years ago, but it was in 2006, so it's getting long. I got a master's in gerontology as well. So I have 2 master's degrees in the field. And then I have for the state of Illinois too, I have the licensed clinical professional counseling. So in the military, that's what I did, do social work. I felt very gratified. The first permanent place I worked was a mental health clinic, and I was there for a while. And then after I got married, we worked in the same office. So I kind of moved over to the social work service in the hospital and did, discharge planning, like how they do, and, child abuse, spouse abuse, and like rape crisis things. We would get called to the ER. And then when we went to Europe, most of that MOS, that job classification, works in the drug and alcohol program. So I did drug and alcohol counseling with people there for the 3 years. So when we went to Fort Hood, we sought out and did that there. So primarily the majority of time I was in the service, did drug and alcohol counseling.
So you must have a good plan for how to relax from all of this.
I try, yeah.
Like yoga, meditation, or some go to the beach, or I mean that's a lot of
grandkids. I know.
Now I have one, and right. My daughter is expecting, and she's expecting on January 17th. And
she hasn't had the baby yet.
No.
Okay.
And I'm on the board for the Geriatric Care Managers, the Association for Aging Life Care Association, which is the care managers. I'm on the board for the Midwest chapter, and that's why I was putting a conference on in Detroit, because we put a conference on once a year. But anyways, on the board, and they have a board meeting every year, and this year it's in January, and we all have to get together. Even though we're in the Midwest, they go to Florida now because the flights are the same. Like when I first was on the board some years ago, we always went to Chicago or Milwaukee, and it was January, February. So I'm like, this Florida thing's seeming better. But anyways, I have to go like on the 7th or the 8th for like a couple days. And I told her, you have to have the
Hang
baby
on.
early or on time. There's no having it that week, but I'll see what happens.
All
But
right,
yeah,
we got a comment from Ann Winslow. She said, such an interesting lady. Would love to read her book. She does know people that I also knew, especially Dean Gedemy. Dean knew everyone. The church has been a big part of her life, also her faith. Thank you.
yeah, yeah.
Thank you,
And
Ann.
I was like, and Susie was there. It's so funny because, well, she heard at my dad's funeral, I did this eulogy thing, and if I was a little like, but I was saying about what he meant to me and all this, and then, um, and I looked around, and so many people were there. Denise Thomas was there, Mark Davis. I don't know, some of these people you might not know, Kerri, because they don't
I
come
know,
up.
I know all the names at the church, believe me.
And
Been
then
there a long time.
Randy Marak was there, and Ken Marak was there, and I know Jean Alley wanted to come, and Jean Alley was there. She just didn't come to the other, and I know Andrea Shanley, she wanted to come, and she actually worked. She works at the one, I think where the radiologist doctor, where my dad was going, and when he was in the hospital those couple days, she talked to me there at the hospital. I went down, talked to her, and she was always messaging me and support. So she didn't get to come that day, but I felt so much support. And Susie and that were there, and it didn't even really know me before, but she came over to the Democratic Club. They had that's where the reception was, and
It's a
stayed
trip.
yeah, you stayed for a really long time and talked to people. I
I
think you're
enjoyed talking to your daughter.
I know, yeah, my daughter. Um, and that's where some people found out, like, it was kind of straight. I'll have to ask Ken. I haven't talked to him. Kid, when they were walking out, somehow they knew she was pregnant. She hadn't told anybody really but my dad. Like, they weren't telling anybody. And Ken said something about, well, it's going to be nice when you have that baby. And she's like, wait. And then,
Oh my
so
goodness.
somehow he knew. And then he said he knew what she was going to have, but he wasn't going to say. And so we have to see if it's right. But anyways, yeah, and Mark was there, so it's just so special. Oh, and of course Margot was there, and they were taping things. So people that have known you for your whole life that were part of this story, just being there. But anyways, I said a bunch of stuff about growing up and how it was and what my dad, and then I, of course, I'd already wrote this, but again, I hadn't read it again for a while. And then when I was reading the paperback, I was like, well, a lot of that eulogy is like straight on. Like, I guess it was tough on mine when I was putting it together, because I didn't reference this at all. I didn't think about it, but I was writing it, and then I thought a lot of that stuff is here because my dad, he had this cancer for 2.5 years, and he ended up having 4 different kinds. And even towards the end, he just still kept saying, I don't understand because I don't feel sick. And his back or his legs started hurting. That was his only thing. But on Memorial Day, he hosted a party there for us in Detroit. There's like 50 people there, different people. And he was always out and about. On St. Patrick's Day, I got pictures. He was at the Democratic Club with his stuff. And, he just was he was very determined person, and he could fix and do anything really. And, and then when I was saying something to one of my coworkers, I said, well, he doesn't want to give up when the doctor at the radiology place said, well, we can't keep doing this treatment. It's not going to do anything. He's like, oh, they're giving up on me. And, he just was still determined. And I told her, I said, because my one brother, my step brother, whatever, he said, well, your dad's the most determined person that I've ever met. And I was like, that's true. And I said something to my coworker, and she goes, that's not surprising because that's where you get it from. And I said, oh, you think I'm a determined person? Like, of
Sounds
course you
like,
are.
yeah. It
So,
sounds like it for sure.
anyways,
Well,
Yeah,
we're out of time here, Gail. Sorry.
yes,
that's
and
okay.
you
We
will
always
be in,
ask
you'll be in
our-
our, you'll be in our thoughts and prayers, because I know this Christmas will be different and hard in some respects. And we are looking forward to like getting hands on those autographed books and getting everyone to read it. So we will work on that as we can.
Yeah, just kind of take the orders and I'll send them there. Like,
Oh,
well,
great.
how many do I need to send? Or
All right.
hopefully I'll get to come soon
All right, great,
too.
Gail. Thank you so much. Sue,
Thank
do
you
you
so
want
much.
Read, Gail gave us two scriptures earlier and later on in life, which I thought was wonderful. So let's let Sue take us out with that.
The one from earlier in life is Esther 4:13.
It's backwards. You got it backwards.
4:14.
No, that's the
later.
one for now. That's the other one
Oh,
is, sorry, that was me.
Oh, okay.
The
Well,
Peter is the
for now.
earlier.
So this is the perhaps you were born for such a time as this. That's from Esther.
That's for later. That was for
That's
later.
for now. I
Favorite.
feel like that's
Yes,
now.
that's for now.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then the one for when you were a kid, apparently, then,
Mhm.
is 1 Peter 5:7. And that says, cast all your cares on him because he cares about you.
Beautiful.
Both very good scriptures.
Yes, both
Thank
very
you.
good.
Thank you. It was great to be on today.
All right, you can leave because I'm sure you sound busy with everything you told us on the call. Listening. Sue's just
Or
gonna
you
do
can
our
stay if
lead
you
out.
like.
I'll
Or
just
you
stay
can-
and listen.
Yes, or you can stay. That's what I always say. All right.
So if you would like to understand more about the good news of Jesus Christ, be sure to join Pastor Tim for devotions. He's live at a new time of 9:30 a.m. Monday through Thursday on Facebook. And join us Sundays at 10 a.m. for worship. It is live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, or you can come in person in our beautiful sanctuary in Allen Park, Michigan. The Good News Live at 9 is on break next Friday. We will return in the new year on January 3rd, when our guest will be the Reverend David Montgomery. We had a lot more questions for him last time he was with us, but we ran out of time like we have with Gail. So he'll be back for an encore appearance. And if you missed his first interview, you can find it on the church website at www.allenparkpres.org.
I can always come back, Susie, and talk.
Yeah, there you
The
go.
other people I grew up with will tell you that.
And if you'd like to be a guest with us on a Friday of your choice, just let us know. We are scheduling guests through February. And we hope to see you next year on Friday, January 3rd. May you have a blessed Christmas and make merry with family, friends, and strangers. And may you and yours be healthy, happy, and prosperous throughout the new year and beyond. And
Thank
remember,
you to all. Yes, thank you to all who've been with us this year on the show.
Yep. And remember, you are a beloved child of God. God loves you, and so do we. So bye. See you next
Bye,
year.
everyone. Thank you so much, Gail. This was wonderful.
Merry Christmas.
Hope
Say
to see
hi
you soon. Merry
to
Christmas.
Emma and Lee.